Welcome for another week here of the KWYP GPA podcast. I'm sitting with Jim Roche out of Philadelphia. So Jim, as we do, is we just kind of always start. Go ahead and just introduce yourself a little bit. Tell us about who you are and kind of your team.
Yeah, absolutely. Connor, thanks for having me. My name is Jim Roche. I am the CEO, the team leader of the Jim Roche real estate team. We are located out of KWYP, Philly, here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, mainly Center City, about less than half a mile right off of Broad Street and City Hall. So right in the middle of the thick of things here in the city of Philadelphia. We service basically the city and all the surrounding areas. So we focus in primarily a lot of our businesses directly here downtown in the Center City and the surrounding areas, as well as the main line, the outer Bucks County, Montgomery County areas, et cetera. And we also do extend over into the South Jersey territory and all the way down to the Jersey Shore points as well. So we cover big footprint. I think one of the things that we really have going for us is not just the size of our organization and our team, but it's also the demographic that we can really go out and reach and associate with and be able to position people in the right places, regardless of where they want to be, whether it's in the city, outside the city, et cetera. So we're extremely positioned really well. And, I've been here with Keller Williams. This is my 5th year, part of KW. In total. So everything's been great, and I'm happy to call this place home for sure.
In just 5 years, you have definitely built a larger organization than I think your average 5-year in Keller Williams agent. So I'm going to rewind a little bit though, because you didn't just
Absolutely.
come into KW and have all the skills necessary day one. What was life
Absolutely.
before real estate for you like? What'd you do?
Yeah. So I graduated Penn State in 2009. I just turned 35 years old. Graduated Penn State in 2009. Obviously, 08-09 job market, not really the best place to be graduating college with a ton of student debt and things, student loan debt and all that fun stuff. So I started working for Nationwide Insurance and really learned that point of how to dial and call leads. I kind of had a little bit of a different two-tier touch to it getting into real estate, Connor, to be honest with you. My first role was more or less an ISA style role. I was a sales agent. I was able to call, but basically it was a numbers game for me. I mean, day one, you walk in, slap down, here's the phone book, start dialing away, you find opportunities, you chase them down, you get the leads. And it was a great starter career for me. It was a good place to get out and basically really figure out how to earn and learn for yourself. There was great trainings and great opportunities available for me. But, one thing that I really noticed and mentioned was everything that was being taught and trained to me was just such a straight and narrowed path. And I always, unfortunately, am one of those guys, you can ask my ops team, unfortunately, I'll probably watch this, but I'm always the one that's always going the opposite side and trying to recreate and re-envision things. So I started out my sales career there and just really was in an ISA style role. My next role that I moved into was, more of an outside sales role. So this was a territory sales manager. I worked for a company that did basically large contract negotiations for aluminum and stainless steel mills and end users such as Boeing, Lockheed, people like that. So I learned high level negotiation skills there, but more of in a face-to-face, belly-to-belly sort of sales tactic and situation as well. So for me, the growth of my career, the majority of the points was really figuring out how to present myself and make myself be able to win, retaliate, relate, be a chameleon to pretty much every person that I can sit in front of. And I think that's a sales skill and a quality, a personal quality that I learned at a very young age that's taken me a long way. So I've been in real estate 7 years as a licensed agent, 6 years full time. I left my job actually Thanksgiving Eve. Thanksgiving Eve, and I told my family Thanksgiving Day at the dinner table. Not the best piece of advice if you want to have a great, happy Thanksgiving dinner. So just keep giving everyone an idea of that. But I still remember that day. It's a day that I always go back to and I think about. It's one of those things where there's so much anxiety running through your body of betting on yourself. And at that point, I was 28 years old. I was not even in the business yet. I mean, Connor, you're probably not even at my age yet, which is crazy to kind of think about. But like like a lot of the YP members, when I hear them, like, you guys need to understand how much opportunity and how much you really have in front of you. I didn't even get into the business in until I was 28 years old. Here I am 35, and, we'll excess over 225 million in volume, probably, take another leap of 300 plus next year. So the fact of the matter is if you can figure out a way to learn and apply yourself and put yourself in the right position and surround yourself with the right people and have real clear and specific goals, the world is yours. The opportunities are plentiful and they're out there, but it's just really about putting your head down, figuring out the path, understanding what you want, and really getting the work. So, kind of wrapping up that side. I started out my career with Coldwell Banker. Started out as an independent solo agent, and when I left Coldwell Banker after a year, I came here to KWYP Philly. I was instantly attracted to the training, the culture, the education, and really the mentorship and leadership that I was getting from the people that I emulated. You're David Snyder's, Noah Ostrov's, obviously Mike McCann is here, top agent and one of the top agents in the country. So for me, I wanted to be around the best. I wanted to learn from the best. At Coldwell Banker, my first year, I saw myself just climbing the sales boards, and I'm looking around, and I've always been a competitor, an athlete my whole life, played tons of sports, everything. It's just like, that's the way I am. I just want to win. And I climbed the ranks extremely quick for being a one-year realtor, first-year realtor in a pretty large nationally known and grown brand. So I wanted to challenge myself. And I just said, I saw a lot of people, KWYP Philly was brand new. They just opened, a lot of people flocking there. I had no idea about KWYP, no idea about the models, the systems, anything. I didn't even know the different, I was about as raw as you could be. I came in, they could have charged me $1 million cap, to be honest with you, Connor, because for me, it wasn't about the dollars or the cents or anything. It was about the people I was surrounding myself with. And really, the first 2 years of that, I sat directly smack dab right in the middle of the fire of everybody and was just listening to conversations, watching how people react, just kind of learning as much as I possibly can. Those first few years, it's the most important thing. And I tell a lot of my team members now is we're realtors, right? There's no expectation to be in the office at any time. We should be out setting appointments, different things like that, if you're running the right schedule. That being said, I want new agents in the office surrounded by people like myself and my team members constantly, because they're going to learn way more than anything else, so that was a real big first step for me. But, first year came to Keller Williams, I think I did, as was my first year solo agent. I hired my admin first year. I think first year here, second year in sales, I did 15 mil. Then I started the team, added about 2 team members, but we did about 35 mil. Then we grew from that point, did 70, grew from that point, we did 150, grew from that point, and then we'll end up this year right around 250 million in volume. The one thing that's been consistent that I love and that I chase after, and the thing that's been great about Keller Williams, is I have consistently been leveling up and doubling my business year every year. Now we know there's going to be a ceiling for that, and this year, this year will be that, next year will be that. I would love to, just go from 250 to 500 like that, but you kind of hit a ceiling at that point, and your business and your dynamics change a little bit. But that being said, the one thing that I think is amazing is understanding about where I started my career at such a young age at Keller Williams and what they were able to kind of enable my success to get me to that point. And that's the one thing I think, if you look around the country, is completely unmatched, that Keller Williams has, and that they really truly embody. So it's been a heck of a journey. I think the way we kind of lay right now, I have about 30 total people in my organization total, made up of about 22 who's selling agents, and the rest is being back-end support and staff, from a director of operations all the way through director of sales, marketing team, you name it. We have the service layered. So, the fact that matters, what I'm trying to say, is understanding and taking your past and applying it into your future career, to your goals. I mean, the world can be yours at any point, any opportunity, if you put your mind to it. And I've been a really, really good success story and byproduct of Keller Williams and their program here. So it's been great.
Jim, are you familiar with the DISC assessment?
Mm-hmm.
That was probably one of the best high D answers to a question, where I got pretty much everything I could have needed out of that and a follow-up question in one. So I appreciate that.
I get to the point, Connor. Busy schedule, man. We're good here. We're done. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Well, but for me, it's just like, the whole story of that really embodies into one. I think it really needs to be delivered in that way, because it really brings in a couple of different points. And, I actually just got back. I actually just spoke at Inman Connect, on a stage out at Inman Connect in Las Vegas. And I tell that same story every time, because I think it's not only it's important to know, but I think it's also important sometimes to see and hear that perspective, because I think at different times everybody kind of needs that lift up. So I really like incorporating that.
So I got a couple.
I
got a couple jumping questions there, because there's a lot of that makes sense. There's a couple places where I just want to see if there's any more critical thought. So you went from your insurance, you went to the aluminum, the siding, some of the more heavy materials things, and then you went to Coldwell Banker. What the heck happened between then and then? Ooh, real estate. This sounds like my next thing. How did that happen?
Yeah, so I think you brought you that's another part of a little story. I could sit here and we could do about a whole podcast or series on this. But I really, when I left my job and made a decision to move my job, it really came down to one thing, and it was just my entrepreneurial spirit coming out. My bonuses were directly tied into my corporate performances for my other salespeople throughout the company. I was the youngest kid in that company. Oh God, I couldn't even tell you, by at least half. I mean, I was 25 years old. Everybody else was well above 50. I mean, I'm talking 67-year-old people. Those people have different goals, different objectives, and different lives at this point. So me, I'm out here, I'm grinding, I'm trying to grow my business and grow my life. And that bonus, whether it's 5 or whatever, 5,000, 10,000, whatever heck it is, for a young kid like myself making 35, 40 grand a year, that's major. That's a 10% increase. So I worked really hard for that. But so what I was saying is I was blowing my numbers 200, 300% out, and everybody else kind of nosying up and getting ready for retirement was just coasting. And the fact was, I realized I didn't want to be directly tied to anybody else's success. And that was the point where I was like, I need to find something that I can do where I can bet on myself. Laying in bed, I can tell you exactly where I was. I read at One Academy Circle, Unit 318, Naval Square. It was after 11 o'clock. I'm laying in bed with my wife, was sleeping. We're just newly married. It was, a big time in our lives, but we had no children, and I had the opportunity to take that risk. And watching flipping shows, like, I'll go flip houses. This stuff seems easy. Went out, got my real estate license. That was easy too. And then I realized, oh, well, you actually need money to flip houses, and I don't have any of that. So might as well start selling houses and start building up money. And funny enough, I never spent a penny of our team dollar of when we started growing the team, because of the way that I managed and funded my commissions when they came in. Because I did carry 2 jobs for quite some time, Connor. I know it's a big thing that a lot of people really have to get over the hurdle, but I was one of those people. I battled it. I worked 9 months, almost probably 16 to 17, 18 hours a day. I was hosting 6+ open houses a day on the weekends. I really just committed my time to it because I knew at the end of the day, I wanted to bet on myself. And I knew regardless of when I could get myself to have that nest egg. For me, everyone's like, oh, 3 months, 6 months, blah, blah. Like, I wanted my whole salary in my bank, because I was like, that's the way I can convince my wife. If you guys knew my wife, you kind of understand as well. But she's in finance and she's a planner, so it was a part of the thing that I wanted to do. But I was able to take and save basically from selling real estate on a part-time basis and living my life off of my normal expenses. I didn't take a penny out of any of those dollars that I made in commission dollars. I banked and saved it all. Funny enough, Connor, what happens is when I quit my job, I started moving in and went full-time into real estate. I realized you don't even ever have to worry about a salary anymore if you're actively, consistently doing all the same things. So that 40,000 that I saved to be my nest egg turned into my 40,000 that I saved just to take care of my assistant in case I never sold a house when I hired an assistant. I mean, that's one of our team leaders over here at KWYP says all the time. Name one person that you've ever hired an assistant and fired them because they were too busy. Nobody.
Yeah,
I mean,
nobody.
You always fire the wrong person, but you never found somebody to be like, oh, I hired them, but I didn't need them. I just wasn't busy enough. Like, everybody always has a need for that step in that growth. And it's one of those mental blocks that you just really need to overcome. So once again, I think it's going back to the entrepreneurial spirit and just being understanding and being able to prep and prepare and understand, set realistic goals and expectations for yourself and stick to it, because it'll change and it'll open a ton of doors for you going down the line.
Yeah. And I think, one of the things too, and as much as I do inside of Keller Williams, we're all about the mindset approach to this sales. Because this is real estate at the end of the day. It's simple, but not easy, right? What we do and the mechanics of what our industry is, it is fairly straightforward, but it takes a lot of drive to do it well. And then to do it at what I would say, like a Grant Cardone 10X level that you're doing it. And I got to ask, because this is probably the biggest question. There's a lot of people out there that want a lot of things, that want the success that you've earned for yourself, but you had to have something internal that forced you to go as hard? I mean, 6 open houses on a day or in a weekend or whatever it was. I mean, you're a little crazy, right? But probably in a good way.
No, listen, listen, Connor, I'll tell you right now, I know I was. And the fact is like, but I think that's part of like having that understanding, and like you're kind of saying, that self-drive. I think there's some differences there. And, I think there's ways to work at that. And, but I kind of came in and had that. But go ahead, I'm listening to you.
So what's your, the question, no, you're right on the thread. But what's your why, right? I mean, we ask that question a lot, but what is the thing that drove you to say, you know what, I'm going to leave this job. I'm going to go out, entrepreneurial spirit. I know what I can do. I have the soft skills from my insurance days, from my belly to belly days and all that stuff. I've gotten to real estate. Cold weld wasn't working out. I joined with KW for the training, the resources, and all that stuff. But then, like, why'd you go so hard? I mean, what drove you to do it that hard?
I think it's funny too, because I look at the why, and it took me so long to figure it out, because I thought it would just be, like I said, kind of when I came in, the big why, they talk a lot about that here at KWYP, but not much outside. But I was like, well, why money? And with actual with Gary himself, and actually to have the person who actually built that and ask you those questions is in such a different setting and scenario. Oh, what says my internet's messed up? You got me here, Connor?
That's okay. Yeah, we had a little temporary glitch, but not a big deal. We got you good now. So
great.
Maybe if you want to just rewind, 2 seconds. Yep, you're good.
Yeah. So what I was saying was, for me, my big why, that all kind of changed and flipped when I kind of got my head out of money. Obviously, truthfully, having children and getting married obviously changed a lot for me as well. But my why is really freedom. And it's one word, but I think it covers a lot and allows it. Financial freedom, freedom to do what I want, when I want, the ability to go out and, make changes and make decisions based off of what I deem and see needs to be done at that exact time. I mean, freedom for me is the most important thing. Obviously, you love the United States of America, and a big American, big country supporter. But the fact of the matter is I think freedom is a big word that embodies everything and can touch you basically in a spiritual side or a financial side. So that's really what I'm chasing after, whether that's financial freedom or time with your freedom with your time, freedom with your life, your family, etc. I think there's a lot there, but that's really my drive. Is I want to be able to do what I want when I want it. And that's it.
So let me ask you a question, because here's the catch-22 that I think a lot of agents get themselves into. A lot of agents get into this, and you kind of mentioned real estate investing. You get to become an agent first to kind of fund that. And a lot of people say, I want to be financially independent, or I want to have financial freedom. Well, part of that means that I want to be able to do what I want, when I want, with the people who I want. However, to really build your sales career and to run your team as you function now, you have a lot of routine. You have a lot of systems and operations in place. So how do you balance this? To be free, you actually need to be routined. I mean, how do you kind of contrast those two things?
I'll tell you, one of the biggest things that I changed when I saw a real leap and jump in my business was my schedule and my timing and how I do those things. I became very, very, very religious with that, as far as, hey, I plan at this time. This is my prospecting. This is my follow-up, and nothing trumps that. I don't care if it's a $10 million listing lead. And I will tell you, Connor, for $10 million listing lead called me, I probably would drop my prospecting and go, just like the majority of the agents would. But the fact is until I got serious with that point of, like, I don't care who it is, my phone's off, my head's down. I looked at it as prospecting and follow-up, as that was my job. Everything else was just fun on top of it. And I got religious with that. And I think that's a little bit of a difference of what I see from when I came into business, whether it was 6-7 years ago, to agents now. There's such quick solutions and fixes for so many different things nowadays. As far as people want to come in and they just want to buy. Sorry, I just need a charger here. If somebody just comes in and they just want to just get in and just buy leads, or take Zillow or do whatever they want, rather than get involved in doing the high level dirty grunt work, pounding the pavement. I can remember I told my first sale, my first lead. I remember the seller's address, the seller's name. They still sell with us today. They own a multifamily portfolio. The only way I got it, she was walking out. I had a conversation with her. If I wasn't there at that exact time doing my exact actions, I would not have had that first sale. And if I didn't have that first sale, what would I have? So the way I look at it is everything happens for a reason, and every action that you do in this business has to be, purposeful and specific. So that was really one of my biggest, checks that really allowed me to kind of say. And then once it started working, Connor, you're not reinventing the wheel. You're just adding and figuring out, what you can add, what you can subtract, and what you want to get good at and what you're bad at. And you obviously outsource that stuff. So it was a really, really purposeful approach. Looking back on it, I'm very surprised at myself for being not really ever being an entrepreneur or having it. But, I engulfed and engaged myself in the podcast and books and whatever I could do. I'm a huge educator. You know that, Connor, obviously a big supporter of the KWYP and getting involved there. I love helping educate and telling my story because I truthfully think that, the message and the word that's getting delivered out there a lot of times isn't the right or the real truthful way to do it. You're going to struggle. You're going to struggle breaking through, but being specific, being purposeful, and having a plan of action and sticking to that plan, the sky is the limit plus some there.
So I love that. I mean, you always, anytime, any conversation we ever get to, and as soon as we start talking about the success of yourself or the success of your team, it does come back to the systems that we have in place, protecting, time blocking, build your bunker, be very specific about what your job is, what your 20% money earning, high leverage activities are. You can go make a marketing flyer or find one. You can, Zillow leads will always be there. And if you want them and it's easy trough to pay a ton, do that. Now, this has all been very rosy about the successes you've had, but we're going to flip it.
Yeah.
All right. So tell me, when you first got into real estate, when you were kind of really getting, whether it was at Coldwell or maybe your transition to KW, maybe when you were first starting the team, we got to talk about a failure, right? Or something that we call it an opportunity for growth, but really let's call it as we see it. What was something early on that maybe you made the wrong call, and how'd you maybe overcome that?
One of the biggest things that I think that I look back on is I say, well, I think I would have lost 8 months to a year plus of basically, it's tough the way to break it down, but the real deep the real deep feelings of that is that I wanted to be like everybody else and wanted to be associated by everybody else without surpassing everybody else. I wanted what everybody else had, but didn't really take the time, energy, and effort to figure out why they had it. I just wanted it. So I would sit around in my Coldwell office or my Keller office here, and these guys, their phone would be ringing. And I'm like, well, mine's not. What's going on here? Well, the fact is they did prospect, or these are the leads following up with them, or phone calls coming back. So in the beginning, I wasn't purposeful. I wasn't very specific. I had no systems. I had no plan. So I really had to take that time to learn that. And I think that's one of the more things I'm trying to drive home is coming in and figuring that out and understanding what you want to do is very important. The other thing was I went out and I compared myself to so many people too. I looked around the industry and I said, well, this person on Instagram, they're penned in a unit once a day and, I'm prospecting 5 hours. Why? And then you beat yourself down, you bury yourself in a hole. Well, I hate to break to everybody. What you see out there on Instagram isn't always real, isn't always fact, isn't always reality. And once I was able to kind of tune that out of my head and focus on myself and my plan and what I wanted, everything else became noise. That's it. Everything else became noise and a distraction. The only thing I knew that I could really, at the end of the day, control was what I was going to do day in and day out. And that's what's directly tied to my results, not the guy sitting across from me or the person on Instagram or anything. So do not compare yourself to others and do not be unprepared, because I did 2 of those. And I look back, I mean, listen, that's, almost close to 15 to 20% of my time being in the business. Well, 10 to 15% of that. I look back, I'm like, man, I wish I could have had that time, because if I had that time back now when I was making such an impact and pushing my business to where it is today, I look back and I'm like, I'm upset that I didn't do it, because I'm like, that was a lost opportunity. And I refuse to let myself ever have another lost opportunity. And that's why my clarity and my vision and where I want to be is just so clear and concise at this point.
There's
from those past mistakes.
There's 2 big things that I took out of that. And if I can try and crudely summarize them, it's one is fail to plan to fail, right? That's the first big one. And the second one is put the horse blinders on and go to work, right? Stop looking to the left, stop seeing what somebody, it's like the gym mentality, right? You go to the gym, you've been there for 3 weeks, you look at somebody who's been doing it for 20 years. You're like, why am I not that big? Why should I even work out? It's like, well, yeah, because you've got a 20-year head start on you, right?
Exactly right.
All right. So you said you're married and you have 2 children now?
Yeah, I have two kids. I have my son is 4 years old. I have my daughter's about to turn 1 in September.
Okay. Well, congrats. So let's fast
Thank you.
forward. Let's fast forward time a little bit. All right. And
Yeah.
let's say both your kids are 18, right? When they turn 18, and let's just imagine for a second, you cannot give them a dime. You can't give them any legacy. You can't hand them over the business. You can't hand them a building. You can't hand them anything. But what you can give them is one solid piece of advice. It could be a theory. It could be a single line. If that's all you could leave to your children and you wanted them to have the best life possible, what would you tell them?
I would leave them a hard work ethic, to be completely honest with you. If there's one thing I can instill in my children, it would be a hard work ethic, because I think everything else around that follows, meaning respect, manners, and ultimately honor, money. It all starts with the person in the inner being. And if you can't control yourself, you're not going to be able to control your future. That's it. I mean, that's the God honest truth. And that was the one thing that I knew. I mean, my children, when they get to that age and they get there, they're going to have to get jobs. Hopefully, they're in a fortunate situation where they may not have to, but the fact is they will be the hardest working people. Because, I grew up in, lower middle class sort of family in Philadelphia. I understood what hard work was. I had a great life growing up. When I needed something, we were able to get it, but I knew people who weren't, and I knew people on the other side, but I knew what side I wanted to be on when I got older. And the fact was, you're kind of born into the situation that you have, and you get to a point where you can really take your life by the reins and really lead it in that right direction. I just had a clear and upfront path of where I wanted to go and how I wanted to be there and chase that big why. It all starts with yourself and all leads into the hard work and you just getting up and getting it going. That's it.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
I love that.
To the gym, prospecting, getting up for appointments, door knocking, etc. It all starts here. It all starts with you, hard work.
And that's something that no matter what they want to get into, whether they want to go into real estate, they want to be an artist, whatever, a hard work ethic, no matter what, will take you through. So,
and it's it's funny too, Connor.
Yeah.
Quick, just to not kind of change subjects, but my life now has changed. My life no longer is. I used to say, well, it doesn't matter. I'll just outwork that person. That's not a real sustainable way, but I think when you're breaking into a business, that's the mindset you need to have, because now I don't want to outwork everyone. I want to outsmart it. I want to be the person that's basically taking that next step. And that's part of what our biggest thing is. My goal with this team is I want us to be at least 3 to 5 years ahead of every other competitive organization in the country. That's what we think. So we don't even think about right now. I've been talking about this shift for about 2 years. We're prepared. We were planned for it and we're rolling through it. What's the next challenge? How do I prepare for that today? So, you can't outwork a recession. You can't really outwork one. You can get after it and change things, but you have to get smart and specific with it. So, my goal and my vision on hard work changes as your career evolves. But if you can instill and put that as the foundation of everything, it all just comes around you at that point and only goes up from there. So,
yeah. Well, I was going to ask you sort of what's next for the team, but you kind of hit the nail on the head with that. It's that we're trying to always look forward. We want to be 3 to 5 years ahead of any other competitive, entity in my same space. I always want to be setting that way and outsmart them. Well, let's come more a little internal to you for a second here, because we got our last couple minutes here. We got our last 3 minutes here. So I want to make sure I respect your time. Who's been there for you since the beginning? Who's been your rock? Who's been that person that's just been there?
Now, do you mean through my team growth, or really? I mean, I could give you the easy, lazy answer. I mean, not lazy. Geez, no, my wife's gonna watch us. I'm in trouble. But my partner, my wife is there. But obviously, my wife has been a big supporter of mine, and so my wife's a CFO at JP Morgan Chase. Has a great career, is a very strong female in business and finance, and worked her way all the way up from intern to CFO, which is a very, very, very tough position. I'll be honest with you, Connor. Back when I worked in my other sales job, we had a very clear-cut life that she was going to be, the winner of the family. And, switch back 5-6 years later, and now she's working in a part-time capacity, probably getting ready to just kind of be completely done there, and manage the family, manage the funds, and manage our investments, everything like that. So it's great. She's been able to kind of take that leap, but, she's always been there for me. And, honestly, for me, is the people that have always been there. I wouldn't really put one, I put it as a group. So, as I said, we launched our team about, a little bit a little over 4 years ago. And, we hold a 100% retention rate right now, meaning we've never lost an agent. We've never lost an employee. So if anybody has been there for me, it would be my team, because every single person that's here, whether they started day one or they started day 1,000, they've still been with me what I consider day one, which is our relationship. And I'm not a fool. I understand that retention rate's going to change. People are going to leave. But, we take a lot of pride in that, because that shows us that we're offering and showing people and giving these people the value they want. But, our team operates, it's cliche, big cheesy family, but it's the God honest truth that everybody here, we have brothers and sisters, and, we really, really want to see each other succeed and fight and, get after that common goal. And so for day one, I mean, obviously, my significant other, my wife, my family, is obviously the kids are, that's the answer. But if you get onto the business side, I would say it's my team, because I don't look at them as, 30 plus people now. It's one unit, it's one group, it's one common goal. It's success through others. And they've been there for me, and I'll always be there for them. And that's just a common theme with it, amongst our organization here.
Jim, we are basically right at time here. I'll just say this as kind of in closing.
Yeah.
I've always been impressed. The tenacity that you bring to this business, for me, has been a breath of fresh air. Having come into the business, and like you said, there were some 60 and 70-year-olds still selling real estate at a point where they're trying to wind down. This is a second or even third career for them, and they're just sort of looking to slide into retirement. And I always felt like there was sort of this blue collar Northeast intentionality towards the hustle early on in this business that was lacking. And it's taken getting into YP, it's taking meeting you and some other people like yourself that have really, I think, opened up my eyes. And I hope for the people listening in have opened up your eyes to, you are allowed to go as hard as you want at this business, as early as you want in this business, and don't ever let anybody tell you that you can't. So with that, we're going to wrap up here on the recording. So I appreciate everybody tuning in. Jim, any last final words for everybody, or you want to just say goodbye?
No, that's it. I mean, I appreciate everybody. If you need to reach out to us, give us a follow on Instagram, Jim Roche Real Estate Team, all the social media, and you can visit our website, jimrocherealestateteam.com. We always are happy to be here as a resource for everybody. Our average team age is 28 years old, so I'm a big supporter of what you guys do. And Connor, I can only speak to the highest, the highest praises to you and your team, you and Katie, everybody over there. You guys, what you're doing at the chapter is the Philly chapter here, greater. What do you guys call it?
Greater PA region. Yep. We ride just with the region.
Well,
correct. Yep.
You guys are rocking and rolling here. You're doing amazing things. I love supporting you guys and seeing what you're doing, because I think exactly like you said, Connor, is like, this industry doesn't have to be this whole way. It could be exactly the way you want to do it. You be a good person. You have a hard work ethic. The world's in your palms. You have to get out there and chase after it. So, with that, I just want to say thank you to KWYP, and I appreciate you having us on.
Absolutely. All right, y'all. Stay tuned for next week.